Hello, I'm Declan Curry, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Oscar-nominated film Lion, specifically the spectacular use of cinematography in the film. The film features a whole host of beautifully shot sequences that are almost always used to convey Saroo's current state of mind. These shots were orchestrated based on real stories that Saroo Brearley had told the cinematographer. The effect of this is that it allows the viewer to empathize with and create a connection with Saroo. The first sequence that we're going to be taking a look at is the very beginning of the movie, specifically the shots that take place during the opening credits. To the casual viewer, these shots may seem like something the filmmakers used to put in the background while the credits play, but in reality, they carry great meaning into the real life of Saroo. They are meant to simulate something that Saroo used to do as a child after he was adopted. Listen to what the cinematographer, Greg Fraser, says about these shots.
One of the points that Garth raised when we first started speaking about this opening sequence was the story that Saroo told Garth, which was often when he was a child, he would astral travel, or what he thought was that. He would, as he was going to bed, he would leave his body, he would float across Australia, float across the sea, and then go home in his body. Like, this is how every night he kind of imagined that this would happen.
You see, by mimicking this feeling of astro-traveling, as Greg called it, the audience can experience a similar feeling that Saroo used to when he was a child. The next series of shots that we'll be taking a look at take place about 10 minutes into the movie, and it is right as Saroo gets lost on the train. Throughout this scene, we see the almost exclusive use of handheld shots and center composition. And although it may have been out of necessity, considering they are filming on a real train, it works to the advantage of the film in creating the feeling like we are with Saroo on his journey. Notice how shaky the camera work is, giving us the feeling like we are on this train with Saroo, going through all these emotions of fear, anger, and sadness. Now take a look at these shots and the way they're composed, keeping Saroo right in the middle of the frame and kept very small and far away in the frame, surrounded by all these empty seats. This is done to create the feeling of loneliness, how Saroo is quite literally surrounded by nothing on every side. Similarly, about a minute later when Saroo finally gets off the train, we see him in the middle of a crowd. Center composition is used to show how Saroo can be completely surrounded by people, yet somehow be completely alone at the same time. Now we're going to focus on perhaps one of the most powerful scenes in the movie. It is about an hour and a half into the movie, and it's the scene where Saroo finally discovers where his home is. We see Saroo about to give up on his search for home after it seems as though he searched all of the possible areas he could have come from. Finally, he just fools around on Google Maps, letting the mouse wander when he notices a familiar area. As the scene progresses and Saroo gets closer and closer to home, the camera gets closer and closer to Saroo. Typically in filmmaking, when the camera gets a real extreme close-up of someone, it's done to get the emotion and the intensity from the scene. Listen to what Greg Fraser briefly says about this scene.
We wanted it not to be a flat kind of, like info doco that, okay, he looks at this, then he looks at here, then he looks here. It wasn't about that, it's about the emotions. So trying to link that with him was really important. Trying to see reflections, trying to see his face through reflections, trying to see the screen change light on his face, in his eyes, in his tears.
Imagine if this scene were a full shot from across the room. I doubt the audience would feel the same effect because it's impossible to pick up these micro-expressions you'd see when up close, and from those expressions, that's how we are able to empathize with Saroo and share this moment with him. For my final example, we'll be looking at the scene from the very end of the movie when Saroo finally returns to his home village of Ganeshtale. Again, this is a very powerful scene because it is the scene where Saroo finally accomplishes the goal he started at the beginning of the movie. He's finally home. The way the filmmakers orchestrate this scene is very well done. They mimic the shots that we see earlier in the movie when Saroo was a child and returning home. This is done to further emphasize the fact that Saroo is finally where he belongs. Also, a good majority of the shots in the scene are handheld. The director made a conscious choice to put the camera behind Saroo in this scene. This way it feels like the audience is right behind Saroo every step of the way, following him on his journey home. This is Declan Curry, and thank you for listening.